Everything's pretty bad. Like this book. I read this and I have a lot to say about it. Ready? Great. The Wives, written by Taryn Fisher, is an adult domestic thriller published in 2019. The text version was not available at my library, so I listened to the audiobook narrated by Lauren Fortgang, whose skilled performance was the only thing I enjoyed. Yes, I know my catchphrase specifies I read the book, and I did. With my ears. That being said, I became so frustrated that I ended up playing the second half on twice the regular speed just to get it over with. So let's get this over with. Here's what happens. So Thursday, a person, is a 29-year-old nurse who lives and works in Seattle, Washington. She is married to Seth, the owner of a home renovation company who splits his time between Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington. PNW representation. Yeah. The entire story is told through Thursday's first-person present tense point of view. I love the way Taryn Fisher wrote Seth, who has the personality of a sandbag, and Thursday, who has astronomical levels of jealousy and libido. It's super fun and not at all uncomfortable. I would not have read this if my friend had not paid me. The terms of their marriage has unique rules based on Seth's practice of polygamy. He and his family are Mormons, originally from Utah. The author does not specify whether or not Seth and his family are normal members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who do not believe in or practice polygamy, by the way, or if they are fundamentalist Latter-day Saints, who do still believe in and find legal loopholes to practice, a thing that has been federally outlawed for many, many, many years. I don't think Taryn Fisher was aware that the Mormon Church excommunicates fundamentalists. She just kinda wrote stuff, because respect and nuance are weird alien words. Now, mind you, we are told that Seth informed Thursday of his family's cultural practices during their third date back in college, so she entered into this legally binding civic arrangement with full consent and knowledge of what it entailed. She is the only legal wife that Seth has. The other two wives are only wives in name. Speaking of names, Thursday is not allowed to know the ones of the other two wives. They are each forbidden from communicating with each other, from ever meeting each other, or from knowing anything about each other's personal identities. So, Thursday refers to them by the days of the week that Seth visits them. Monday and Tuesday. So we got Monday and Tuesday and Thursday and Seth. It's like a Christopher Durang play. Thursday is, by her own admission, a needy, petty, jealous person. In her own words. So, of course it makes sense that she would enter into a relationship that involves sharing her husband with two other women. We are not told why. We readers are told to set that need for knowledge aside, and instead patiently endure Thursday's constant complaints and cruel, unnecessary judgments made towards the other wives. You know, the women she's never even met, because Seth forbade all of them from contacting each other. As one does. Early in the book, we meet Thursday's mother as well. Her mama, and we get to learn why Thursday is obsessed with wifing correctly and why she views herself as worthless and ugly unless she makes Seth happy every waking moment they're in each other's vicinity. Because her mom taught her that. Cool! Then the inciting incident finally happens when Thursday discovers a printed hospital bill forgotten in one of Seth's coat pockets. It's addressed to a woman named Hannah, and Thursday deduces this must be the name of one of the other wives. The billing address shows Hannah lives in Portland, Oregon, and coincidentally, not long after finding this paper, Seth calls Thursday up on the phone from his job site in Portland and asks if she wants to pop on down for a little romantic getaway with him. Thursday genuinely looks forward to this, but she also intends to multitask a wee bit because her curiosity and jealousy compel her to locate and identify the wife on the hospital bill. So upon arriving in Portland, before going to see Seth, Thursday locks in on the address of the woman on this personal private medical document and goes to stare at the front of her house. As one does. Hannah lives in a spacious and gorgeously refurbished Victorian house in a very affluent neighborhood, and she's accustomed to people asking about the history of it. She is also, fortunately, conveniently, very kind and sociable. So she invites Thursday inside for a snack and to chat about the house. While Thursday snacks and visits under false pretenses, she notices a hand-shaped bruise on Hannah's arm, and a shard of broken glass on the floor near the entryway. Save that information for later. Then Thursday goes to her romantic dinner with Seth, during which time he explains that the tropical vacation that they've been planning for quite a while at this point will have to be postponed for a later date because his other wife, Monday, will be having a baby at that time of year, and he needs to be sure that he can take care of her. This is important because Thursday cannot get pregnant, and she unfortunately perceives her worth as being proportional to the functionality of her ovaries. This sucks for her, and I felt bad briefly until she ruined it by throwing an adult tantrum at the dinner table with the grace of a dying horse falling off of a cliff. She cannot stand the thought of Seth prioritizing the other wife over her because, in her own words, being robbed of her time with him is unbearable. A dude prioritizing the birth of his first child and the health of one of his wives over a vacation that could be easily postponed for a later date? Boo! Barbaric! The dinner goes downhill, and Thursday leaves the restaurant because, despite Seth's insistence that they discuss this like the fully grown adults they are, Thursday has the emotional intelligence of a brick. Well, she goes out for a late breakfast with Hannah the next morning, and she gets a sudden urge to tell Hannah something deeply personal, so she says Seth is cheating on her. I was unaware that marrying a polygamist man makes him a cheater, but you learn something new every day. I also have to point out that one of the reasons Thursday wants to form a connection with Hannah is because she wants to build her own community, and in her own words, it's not like she can find one of those polygamy support groups online, like one of those MOPS meetings mothers attend. Go to Reddit. Facebook, if you must. The internet is a magical place. Use it. I was also really confused when I heard that because I didn't know what MOPS was, and I thought maybe it's a group of really clean moms who meet once a month or once a week to advocate for the best ways of keeping spotless floors. But no, it just stands for Mothers of Preschoolers. Fun fact, sudden tone shift here, sorry, but during this conversation, during breakfast, we learned that Seth apparently is abusing Hannah physically, hence the bruises on her arm that Thursday noticed last time, and the broken glass on the floor of her house. He also hid Hannah's birth control. And yet, during this very heavy, intimate conversation, Thursday feels her anger towards Seth transfer over to Hannah. Because Thursday is jealous that Hannah can get pregnant and jealous that Seth wanted to get her pregnant. Because we all know the best way to keep your readers invested in a story is to make your main character as lousy as possible. Thursday is grade A. Her empathy is off the charts. Off of them. There is none. But does anyone elaborate?
No.
Because before the conversation can continue, some wildly convenient NPC that we never see or hear of again in the entire book accidentally spills iced coffee on Thursday, and she has to leave. She just has to go. Back when I worked at Starbucks, when I thought it was an ethical company, whenever I spilled iced coffee on myself, I had to clock out immediately and go home. Iced coffee is dangerous, as are napkins. Later that day, Thursday has another argument with Seth because she's still big mad about the whole vacation thing. Seth decides to confirm that his other wife, Monday, is Hannah. Is there more relevant information? No. He seems to know that Thursday and Hannah have been hanging out, I guess. This isn't clarified, but we do get to deal with more whining and complaining because Thursday feels like the forgotten middle child now that Seth's pregnant wife has been shifted to top priority. Thursday only has one sister, so I don't know how she knows what it's like being the forgotten middle child. But okay. You know, it's just like me, the youngest in my family. Whenever I complain about my life, I compare that to what it feels like to be the oldest sibling, because I know what that's like. Anyway, Thursday is so angry at Seth that she decides to retaliate the next time he visits her Seattle condo by dressing normally and eating ramen. For context, every time he visits Thursday, she has on a gorgeous dress, full face of makeup, and dinner set on a flawless table. So this is a stark and sudden contrast. But to reiterate, the main character, our main character, is choosing to not invest in therapy, no, but to weaponize the most stereotypical aspects of her gender to get back at him in the most pointlessly and unproductively immature way possible. Straight fellas, shape up, or your wife will put her legs in sweatpants and her hair in a messy bun with no conditioner. Woo! Coward. Seth and Thursday argue again. I think I blacked out at this point. I didn't care. But we get to hear about how nobody can possibly be good at loving more than one person, how a relationship is basically meaningless without a child, and how Tuesday's real name is actually Regina. Oh yeah! For some reason that I forgot, we are suddenly told about the third wife. I'm sorry, this is why I don't like audiobooks very much, because if I forget to make a note of some detail, I can't find it again. Thursday searches for Regina online based on the law firm for which she works, and after a little bit of extra internet sleuthing, because surprise, Thursday does know how to use the internet apparently, she discovers that Regina has a dating profile. A normal person may assume that since Regina is knowingly engaged in a relationship with a man with multiple romances, perhaps Regina herself also enjoys the open relationship lifestyle. We don't know. Maybe she has multiple active romances too. Maybe she and Seth talked about it too. A normal person might come to that conclusion. Thursday's not normal though. She's a strange little clown who assumes Regina is simply cheating. Thursday figures if she can prove this, Seth will turn Regina away, and Thursday will then be down one competitor. Because of course love is always a competition, especially with women who are catty and crazy and jealous. Isn't this interesting and true information? Did you know that? It's so cool. We're learning so many things. So Thursday makes a fake dating profile and establishes contact under false pretenses with Regina. Okay, now forget that immediately, because then there's a scene of domestic violence in which Seth leaves the condo explosively after yet another argument with Thursday. He doesn't literally detonate, although I wouldn't mind. Anyway, then the next evening, Thursday goes out for drinks with her coworker Lauren, who she neither likes nor respects. She even makes a disparaging mental comment about not caring about Lauren's problems and not wanting to be her shrink. So that's nice. Again, grade A main character. I love her so much. Thursday spontaneously and a wee bit drunkenly tells Lauren about the whole polygamy thing, making Lauren the first person to ever know. Hannah doesn't count because Thursday just told her Seth is cheating. Thursday specifically tells Lauren he is a polygamist. Lauren perceives polygamy as cheating anyway, so it's kind of irrelevant. Thursday spends her hangover the next morning listening to sad music and obsessing over Regina and Hannah, and she decides that maybe some extra stalking and research will distract her, because everyone knows the best way to distract yourself from something you're obsessing over is to obsess over it more. This book is weird. I also gotta say, throughout this entire story, up to now and up to the end, Thursday has random moments where she'll just fume to herself about the pressure that society places on women and how women trip over each other in order to impress the men who run things. She has these surprising moments of progressive rage that amount to nothing because she just keeps on going the way she's going, which includes being a complete jerk to other women. Speaking of which, she goes to dinner with Hannah, and Hannah fully admits 100% that Seth has been violent with her on multiple occasions and makes excuses for him because he was horrendously and unspeakably abused as a child, so that's why he blows up at her. It's okay, it's her fault half the time anyway. And you know what Thursday's reaction to this is? She wants more information about Seth's personal life, so she manipulatively encourages Hannah to lighten the mood by listing the things she loves about him. Thursday is now my least favorite day of the week. She gets up to use the restroom, but when she returns to the table, Hannah has abruptly left. The next morning, Hannah's not answering her phone, so Thursday gets really frustrated and leaves her an aggressive voice message saying, "Hey, where the hell are you? Pick up." Really nice way to communicate with a vulnerable person in a dangerous situation. Bereft of answers, Thursday goes back to her condo in Seattle to find Seth waiting there for her in the dark, menacingly, with bandages over his hands. They talk. He mentions she hasn't been taking her pills. She accuses him of murdering Hannah, and he attacks. Now, to be clear, I don't encourage you to read this book, but out of courtesy, I will put a spoiler warning. The book gets weirder from here, so if you don't like spoilers, get out of here. Thursday loses consciousness and wakes up in a familiar hospital, and we learn through the power of exposition that earlier in her marriage with Seth, Thursday had a terrible miscarriage that rendered her unable to get pregnant again, and which caused her so much mental trauma that she has been having elaborate auditory, visual, and tactile hallucinations this entire time. Seth is not a polygamist. The scenes of him attacking her were actually her attacking him. Were there any hints along the way to make this feel slightly less out of pocket? No. Does the author write about mental illness with grace and compassion? No. Does Thursday change or grow through this revelation in any way?
No.
In fact, she doesn't believe it. She is still not only a grossly dislikable character who judges every woman around her, including the nurse in her room, she is furious with Seth. If he were a rapper, she would probably call him shady mendacious, because she is convinced that he is lying to everyone about her and about his wives to save face and maintain control over his perfect world. She doesn't believe the doctor either. She remains in the hospital for about 9 days, during which time her mama comes to visit for a whopping 15 minutes just to disgust us with her disappointed attitude. To her credit, she does attempt to talk Thursday back to reality, but Thursday is simply convinced that Seth got to her first with his lies. After Thursday is released, she returns to her Seattle condo, where she is placed under sort of an informal house watch, with Seth ensuring she doesn't hurt herself. Mind you, during this entire time, she has been acting very calm and collected and focused to convince people that she is fit to rejoin society. But inside, she's absolutely seething. So she puts sleeping pills in Seth's drink and escapes the apartment, steals the car, and drives back down to Portland to try and regain contact with Hannah. I will say, this particular sequence I enjoyed quite a lot, because it reminded me of the thrilling escape from captivity that I enjoyed so much in Stephen King's Misery, both the book and the movie. But when Thursday arrives at Hannah's house, Hannah has a different haircut and seems not to recognize Thursday. She seems to be pretending she doesn't know her, which, fair. I mean, I don't like Thursday either. I wouldn't want to talk to her for more than 5 minutes. Well, then she goes to Regina's law office, where earlier in the story she made an appointment under a phony name just so she could meet Regina in person. So they meet in person, and we get to hear more of Thursday's pointlessly sexist opinions, such as the fact that Regina's office is furnished with cherry wood, which is a dark brown, and that's weird because women don't go for that kind of look. My apartment has popcorn ceilings and a fake wood dining table. What's that say about my gender? Go ahead, Miss Day of the Week. Tell my fortune. By the way, her name actually is Thursday, which is just kind of a thing we learn somewhere along the lines. Make of that what you will. Eventually, finally, the whole truth comes out, and I need to get out my notes because I cannot get this straight without looking at what I typed. Back when Seth was married to Regina, he had an affair with Thursday, which was why he and Regina divorced. But then, after Thursday had a miscarriage, Seth left her for Hannah, who he legally married because he wanted to have kids with someone who was able to get pregnant, and then continued having physical relations with Thursday on the side because it was fun. Regina's the one who reveals most of this. I was so confused by this maze of a plot that while I was scripting this video, I still wasn't sure if I had all the facts straight. But the point is, as I said before, Seth is not actually a polygamist, and Thursday is not actually married to him, I think, if I recall correctly. I can confirm that Regina, who is immensely angry with Thursday for being a homewrecker, and not angry enough with Seth, in my opinion, she encourages Thursday's delusions by feeding her more outlandish, possibly true, I guess, conspiracy theories about Seth's abusive behaviors, which are not confirmed. I don't know. And she convinces Thursday that she needs to save Hannah and Hannah's unborn baby from Seth, because apparently he serves his wives tea that induces miscarriages, which I don't understand, because he said earlier in the book that he wants to have kids, which is one of the reasons why Thursday was so self-conscious about not being able to have kids. So I don't know. I'm having a stroke. And again, also, Seth attacking Thursday was actually Thursday attacking Seth. As I don't even know if she hallucinated the bruises on Hannah's arm, or if those conversations were even real. I'm not confused in a fun way, though. It's more of a trying to decipher what a customer wants while they're yelling at me kind of way. Then Regina reveals Hannah's apartment address to Thursday, somehow because she knows where she lives? Because apparently the large Victorian house that Hannah lived in actually belongs to Thursday. Thursday, in fact, goes there yet again because she's just kind of bouncing back and forth between plot points. And she finds the house empty with just basic furnishings. I'm confused too. Don't worry, we're in this together. So anyway, Thursday follows Regina's directions and locates Hannah's apartment. They get into a confrontation. Seth arrives mid-conversation. The confrontation gets more confrontational. Then Regina arrives out of nowhere. Seth accuses Thursday of stalking him and Hannah. Thursday becomes super distressed and shoots Seth in the stomach with the gun she had also brought, by the way. Then she's later readmitted to the psych ward. Regina comes to visit her and gloats a little bit because she's glad she got revenge on the woman her ex-husband smooched. Thursday loses her temper and smashes Regina's head into the floor. And the book ends, thank God. Hey Thursday, can you smash my skull into the floor as well, please? Because you've given me an irreparable headache, and you may as well end everything for me now. Okay, so what did I like and dislike? Look at my face. What do you think I thought? If Thursday is supposed to be a villain, I did not find her a compelling or interesting one whatsoever. There is no flamboyance, there's no charisma, there's no relishing evil for the sake of being evil, there's no presentation. There is just nothing. She's too repetitive and bland to be a good villain, and if she was supposed to be written as a good person sinking deeper into a tragedy of her own design, where is the goodness? Because she remains self-absorbed, cruel, and malicious and horribly sexist throughout the entire book. I cannot identify a single likable character trait in this protagonist, and no, vulnerabilities do not make a character compelling. Just because her mother taught her terrible sexist things doesn't mean I care about Thursday's well-being. I don't care, especially since she is so bafflingly inconsistent. She's angry at Seth for loving other women in her perception, and yet she said, by her own admission, that she has always been pleased with this arrangement. She feels trapped, but she has obviously reliable transportation, plenty of gas money, she has excellent job stability. Remember, she's a nurse, she has a decent income and a great condo. Leave him, do something, get a hobby, start a business. Can I just read you my notes because I'm so mad? I need to get this out, but I keep screwing up my lines because I'm so frustrated. She says she's lonely and wants human connection, but she phones her best friend Anna like twice in the whole book. Oh yeah, I forgot. She has a best friend named Anna, by the way, who I never bothered mentioning because Thursday just kind of forget she exists, I guess. Despite the fact that Anna, by the way, is real and they've been best friends since childhood. Taryn dribbled the main character back and forth like a sad, angry basketball, but instead of taking a shot towards a compelling literary theme, she just rolled her across the court and then backflipped away. Thursday's feminist exasperation, contrasting with the rigid conservative beliefs her mother drilled into her, also isn't compelling because she never acts on this anyway. She just acts like a selfish jerk willingly entrenched in misogyny. There's no meaningful analysis of her personal dichotomy, there's no growth, there's just a repeating pattern that feels like a cheese grater against my brain. Now, to be fair, we learn why she feels the way she does and why she projects so much of her self-loathing onto other women through this trauma-fueled delusion, kind of like shining a lamp into a mirror. But before we come to learn that, we're just supposed to patiently endure this awful, awful, awful person for the entire first half of the book. And on that subject, I found the subject of mental illness to be callously sensationalized. As a person who struggles with mental health issues, I did not appreciate the way it was portrayed in this god-awful book. If you want an example of how to write mental illness with kindness, try A Danger to Herself and Others. The nuance in that book is phenomenal. I absolutely loved it. And the main character of that one also suffers from low self-esteem, terrible parenting, and even harmed someone she loved. If you want to read a great thriller about a villain whose actions are guided by undiagnosed issues, read Nobody Knows But You. That takes you for a ride with a dangerously obsessive main character without constantly disparaging all of the people who are trapped in the never-ending rinse cycle of the American healthcare system. This book immediately could have seen miles of improvement if it had just focused on the suspense of learning about the other wives without throwing a weird wrench into the middle of it. Discoveries leading to more questions, the line between lies and half-truths, the challenge of maintaining a relationship with somebody that you don't know if you can trust or even love anymore. All of this is fascinating. These are good concepts that could lead to oodles of entertainment, but instead we got oodles of pointless Mormon bashing, which leads me to ask, what can we take from this? How about some knowledge? So this published work that slams an entire religion in a screen door repeatedly uses a lot of language that conflates polygamy with polyamory. They are not the same. Polygamy is a formal marital arrangement involving men and women, in this book referring to men having more than one wife, which is specifically called polygyny. Women having more than one husband is called polyandry, which is very rare. Polygamy is largely associated with religious subcultures. It can be practiced ethically, and is in many countries, something this book does not mention. I guess you could say the writing could have used some alterations. Polyamory is the practice of participating in multiple romantic and/or physical relationships with the knowledge and full consent of all partners, religious or otherwise. This book focuses on polygamy but jabs at polyamory. Specific phrases such as "it's impossible to love more than one person at once" and "plural marriage is impossible in the heart and mind" are misleading and incorrect. While polygamy has a pretty contentious history here and has been outlawed in every US state for a very long time, it is absolutely possible and perfectly fine to love more than one person simultaneously. To elaborate further, I'll dive into my next point. Mormons do not practice or support polygamy. The Edmunds Anti-Polygamy Act of 1882 outlawed it in federal territories. The church officially banned the practice amongst its members in 1890. The practice still continued subtly among a few members up until the 1950s, at which point it pretty much died out. However, the group of Fundamentalist Latter-day Saints, FLDS, finds ways to circumvent legal restrictions and still continue to practice polygamy, specifically polygyny, today. It's central to It took me 2 nights to record this. It's central to their beliefs and is seen as necessary for men to attain the highest level of salvation according to their doctrine. Polygamy, specifically in the FLDS, involves religious pressure, terrible abuse, and constriction of members within a severely male-dominated culture. The FLDS is not part of the Mormon Church. They splintered off from them a long time ago. Mormon polygamy is an outdated stereotype. In other communities and countries, it's perfectly fine, but since the author has a problem with Mormons, I'm trying to stay on point. Now, I'm not an expert. I prefer monogamous relationships, but relationship anarchy is fine as long as it's handled with emotional maturity, consent, safety, and respect. And polygamy is just fine too, as long as it's handled just the same. If several people of any gender want to get together because they love each other, it's chill. And once again, just so you know, it is not cheating if all parties consent to an arrangement. I can get behind a nuanced story about a jealous, paranoid woman who copes with the challenges of sharing her husband. I can't get behind whatever this is. The next piece of knowledge we can take: a person's past abuse does not excuse the harm they currently cause. Now, while the events of this book were barely comprehensible and unreliable narration played a significant part in the storytelling, I did have a problem with the way abuse was discussed in the story. Whether the dinner with Hannah was real or not, which I don't know, I'm still confused, she made a lot of excuses for Seth's behavior and received neither pushback nor support. Oh, he was abused as a kid. Oh, he was traumatized too. That's why he hits me. It's my fault half the time. Allow me to say what Thursday would not. No, he hits you because he doesn't care enough to learn how to stop. A person's trauma is not your responsibility. A person's trauma is their responsibility to learn how to manage. Do they deserve support? Absolutely. Do they deserve compassion? I think so, yes. But nobody has the right to inflict their trauma on others. Some of my best friends and acquaintances experienced terrible things in their lives and continue to experience the repercussions to this day. But they make the choice every day to be compassionate, reliable, honest, good, receptive, and self-aware. They don't throw throw their trauma onto other people and make excuses for it. And if they have made mistakes, they have apologized for those mistakes, understood where those mistakes come from, and taken appropriate steps to not repeat it. You are not obligated to apologize for the abusive actions of your partner or friend or parent. And one more thing. There is no right way to be a woman. Your worth is not conditional on the functionality or existence of a uterus. No matter what religion your parents support and no matter what the government tries to enforce, you are your own person and you will always deserve autonomy and joy. Be yourself the way you see fit. Eat your ramen and wear your hair in a messy bun, or wear a slinky dress and have fun making dinner at home for your partner. Whatever fills your soul with joy, and whatever encourages you to be your favorite version of yourself. And no other women of any kind have the right to judge you for embracing your own heart. In other words, uterus, uter you, because you are worth it. So yeah, that was The Wives by Tarryn Fisher. It's a big old 0 out of 10 for me, in case that was not obvious. But wait, there's more.
But I'm not done yet!
Shout out to my biggest Patreon subscriber to date, A. DeRochers. That takes extra generosity and I am floored. Thank you so much. Patreon helps pay the bills as I navigate the transition into being a full-time content creator. I really appreciate it. You can help me out. Minimum $3 a month if you would like, if you are so inclined. That's the cost of a tiny hamburger. I also make jewelry, which is not relevant in any way to comedy or books, but I like doing it, so I do it. If you would like any of it, I have it on my Ko-fi. Ko-fi? I dunno. But it's a website where I put my stuff. The link to that, my Patreon, and all of the educational resources that I used in this video are all in the description right below. I have to edit this now.